nostalgia on the best of Texas wrestling. And here, as we look in on the ring at the famed Sportatorium in Dallas, we look at the great Scott as he hauls off with a right hand to catch a flying Mr. Moto, who is about to attack him. And at the time that this match was filmed, Mr. Moto was reigning supreme in the state of Texas. He held the Texas State Heavyweight title, and he also held a reputation for toughness that has rarely been equaled, not only in that era, but in every other. But as generations go by, we forget that the popularity or unpopularity of a sport was built on the bodies of a lot of athletes that preceded those who today receive the headlines and the huge salaries. Mr. Moto, who came from Japan, came here with a style that was bound to be unpopular almost from the very beginning. It followed a period during the post-war wrestling in which people were willing to cheer against anything that was Oriental. On the outside of the ring, you see Duke Keamuka. And Keamuka is one of those people who, like Mr. Moto, suffered or benefited, as you will, from the attitude of the fans. The referee in this one is Leo Voss, who refereed a great deal all over the southeastern part of Texas during this particular time. So the great Scott, who came from Columbus, Ohio, and had a colorful style, who earned the name which he gave himself, the Great Scott, is trying now to prove to the fans of Texas that he is the superior of Mr. Moto. Mr. Moto lives in California at the present time. He is connected with wrestling in Japan. He spends much of his time scouting wrestlers here and advising those in Japan of their ability or lack of ability. In many cases, he is the last word as to whether the Japanese wrestling interests will import an American. If he gives them a high mark, then they are sure to accept his decision. So the Great Scott right now, though, is trying to ruin the reputation of Mr. Moto in one field. Over in the corner, you see Moto conferring with Duke Keamuka. Duke Keamuka, who is connected with wrestling in Florida, and like Moto, is also connected with wrestling in Japan, has never lost his spot in the minds of wrestling fans of Texas. While Moto, for a brief period, transcended the impression that Keamuka had made, Keamuka over the years has proven to be more durable, more absolutely tough than fans even thought he was in those days. But this is the way that wrestling in the Sportatorium and in the rest of Texas took place back in the period over the turn of the 50s and 60s. And as Leo Voss proves, he can't see through the back of a wrestler any more than those who are refereeing these days can. Scott finds himself in trouble with, of course, a Japanese arm lock. And Scott has a lot of tricks up his bag. He's a guy who could get rough and who did get rough on many occasions, who emulated the fine, free-flowing style of Buddy Rogers. And it was Rogers who started the influx of a great many of the blonde wrestlers who came into the game at that time. They weren't all blondes when they started. It was just that at some point in their career, they felt that the change of hair color would benefit them, and in some cases it did, and in some cases it made them more a symbol of duplication than it did of originality. So top man is Moto, as Leo Voss switches around and tries to catch him in the act of garroting his opponent. And in this battle here in the Sportatorium in Dallas, Texas, back somewhere around 1960, Moto is in trouble, and people are telling him to go back to Japan, where he came from. So you can see that things have not changed over the decades. They still do that, and we still enjoy Texas wrestling.